Hello friends, Coach Bob with you, and today we are going to be talking about the front suspension of vehicles. When I say vehicles, I know you're thinking, well, we're just talking about the Spyder, but we're not. What we want to do is we want to talk about a real world experience about riding a motorcycle, touring on a motorcycle, and the safety and the hazards associated with that on two wheels versus three wheels. And we'll even share a little bit of information about the Jeep front end suspension and some of the hazards associated with the Jeep, because I do have quite an extensive background with Jeeps. I've owned three. Coach Vic had one as well. So you can say we've had four in this family, and we've done a lot of suspension upgrades on everything we've had. Everything, whether it was a shackle or a coil spring, that sort of thing. So do have a little bit of background knowledge on some of this stuff. So you've decided to do it. You're going to go on a tour and you suit up and you're ready to ride, and you get on your motorcycle and you've made all of your preparations and you head out on the highway. You're riding along 70 miles an hour, which is a reasonable speed, and you're going in and out of shadows. And all of a sudden you come and you see what you thought was a shadow, but boom, it's a pothole. Or you see that dangerous curve sign up ahead and you're like, looks like a great place to play. And yet you've got all of this weight on the motorcycle. Or you see the dreaded motorcycles use extreme caution sign. Those things can be anything from just uneven surfaces to uneven lanes, where they're compressing one lane and building up the other. And there's that dreaded 2 or 3 inch drop off that you kind of have to lurch your car over in order to get up on that. Then there's just a bad stretch of road. You're riding along and all of a sudden you're just getting the heck beat out of you. And then there's the construction zones with the large expansion joints and those sorts of things. Now, those things, those road hazards, and they are real hazards, can start something on a motorcycle known as a tank slapper. Now, let me tell you what a tank slapper is. A motorcycle, the front wheel is designed to travel in that straight line. And when you hit something, it moves and it self-corrects. When you hit something more violently, or something that maybe shifts the weight in an odd way, the wheel goes a little further, and the inertia as it moves the wheel back can press it through the straight line and over to the other side. Now it goes to correct again, and it throws it further to the other side, and further and further and further. And all of a sudden, you're riding down the highway doing this. Now that little video, it went viral, and I watched that thing years ago in shock of how far that guy slid down the concrete. But tank slappers are not something that I am unfamiliar with. Anyone who's ever ridden sport bikes or those types of motorcycles is very familiar with tank slappers. Tank slappers, if you're popping a wheelie and you come down and that front wheel is mildly cocked to one side or the other, man, you can real quick. Also, as you're accelerating, as you're lifting the weight off of that front tire and you're changing the load, when that front tire is loaded again, it can create that effect. I'm going to play a little montage of tank slappers up here. Some of them are a little more scary than others. Some of them are downright horrifying. And if you've ever had one, you've never been a part of a tank slapper, just the thought of it can make the old heart palpitate a little bit. In the Jeep world, we have something they call death wobble. In a Jeep, you have a solid front axle. And what happens is those wheels start to move as parts wear out in that front suspension, or it can even be tires that have worn unevenly. It can start this oscillation. And man, the front axle will literally bounce off the ground. It is unbelievable. I experienced it one time, and it was in a newer Jeep that had worn out tires. I replaced the tires, problem disappeared. Pretty scary. You're probably noticing I did not mention the CanAm Spyder. Have I experienced front-end high-speed wobble on a CanAm Spyder? The truth is, yes, I have. As I was going down some roads on the interstate and some of the extremely uneven rough surfaces when you moved out into West Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, and even some parts of, you guys will know what I'm talking about, those who have hit I-10. When you're coming through Louisiana, there around New Orleans and Lafayette and those areas, those big expansion joints on those bridges, if you hit something, that front end can do a little dance, just a little ba 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 ba, and then it comes back into place, and it's all fine. But if you wear out those bushings on your sway bar and your front end gets out of a line, could it create a wobble or a shimmy that would be uncontrollable? I guess it's possible. I've never experienced that, and with the riding conditions that I've ridden in, that's pretty impressive. But that said, is it possible for the CanAm Spyder to develop that? I would say yes. Any vehicle that you're bumping around where you're dealing with straight lines and inertia, yeah, it's possible. So we're going to talk about a few things that could cause that. One I just mentioned, suspension parts and front end alignment. These are things that you are in direct control over. Keep an eye on the front end of your Spyder. Go out there, check your sway bar links, check your sway bar, depending on the type of vehicle you have. If your shocks are worn out, those sorts of things. Keep an eye on that stuff. Another thing, don't buy cheap tires. Don't buy cheap tires. Can you buy a different tire for the Spyder? You can. They call it going to the dark side, where you buy a car tire and you put it on a Spyder, you put it on on a motorcycle. You hear more about that, where they talk about going to the dark side, like the Goldwing. They'll put a car tire on the back. Boy, that's weird though, because you don't have that radius, so when you lean, there's that. We'll just say, I don't think I want to do that. But cheap tires, you can definitely do it. Road surfaces. Let's talk about road surfaces a little bit, because there are a lot of things, and for my two-wheel brethren out there, you need to think about some of the road surfaces that create these hazards of what we're doing. One of them is that white line or that yellow line that's painted on the highway. Anybody who has ever ridden in the rain and they come around that corner and they accelerate, they hit that throttle on the motorcycle or even on the Spyder, and that tire hits that white line and it goes zing, and it'll scare you. It can really shake you up a little bit. Those surfaces like that, not only at low speeds and accelerating, when you're riding, those little things that can change the speed of tires can create that wobble in a motorcycle. The big thing that I noticed when we were touring, I would be riding along early in the morning when the sun is coming up, or in the afternoon when the sun is in my face, and all of a sudden I'm riding and I hit a hole or I hit an uneven surface on the road. And at those moments, I am thanking God that I am on a CanAm Spyder, not a two-wheeler. There were a couple of times as we went over bridges out west that it was just blam. And here recently, I'm going to share a video, and I'm going to do a video on road debris and those sorts of things. One of the most horrifying thoughts you can have, and I've had this happen to me. I'm riding down the interstate on a motorcycle, and there is a ladder in the road that has fallen off the back of a truck, and somehow I managed to miss it by inches. Would that have been a life ender? It could have been. 70 miles an hour, two-wheeler running over a 8-foot aluminum ladder, folded over double. Yeah, it could have been pretty ugly. That could have been real ugly. But here recently, on the way back from Bike Week, as a matter of fact, and you'll see that video coming out Saturday, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek right here. I'm riding down the interstate and I'm passing a couple of 18-wheelers. The trees over here are casting a shadow and I'm riding through these little dark shadows. And I'm moving along 75 miles an hour, something like that, not crazy fast. And all of a sudden, I approach this shadow and it's not a shadow. It looked a lot like a tubular door or something with a piece of vinyl zipped over it off of a Jeep or something like that. That's what it looked like to me. But it was metal. It was a metal tube with some sort of covering over the top of it. Man, when I hit it, it jostled that front end severely. I was concerned that I had damaged the Spyder. It didn't. It didn't damage it. So yeah, I'm giving a little bit away of this Saturday's video, but I'll do a nice inspection of it and all that stuff after this happens. So be sure and watch Saturday's video. It's going to be part 2 of the bike week thing. But that road debris on a two-wheeler could have been life-ending. Car tires, things like that come off of a diesel truck. Be careful about where you're riding in relation to those things. I'm going to be doing a video, like I said, on road debris independently of this. But those potholes, those grooves in the pavement that create that oscillation and you feel it in your car. The big one that we experienced many times while traveling out west were those uneven surfaces where one lane was being done. It was funny, we were on when you'll get the tires moving at a different speed up front. There was a stretch of road where we were forced, due to construction cones, we were forced off to the left side, which meant that the left front tire was down in a ridge where there were like speed bumps down in there because it was the shoulder of the road basically. And then the right tire was up on the high point of the road. And then the back tire was kind of moving in between the two based on the cones and the construction, and they were putting tar down on the road and you couldn't get too close. This was about a mile long. The Spyder, actually, the nanny kicked in, it did that clack, 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 clack. You know, anybody who's experienced it, they know what I'm talking about, where that thing shuts you down and it's like you've hit the ABS and all of a sudden the bike's slowing down, and it can be downright scary. And I was thinking, man, something's broken on the Spyder, but it wasn't. So I got an email this week from a subscriber, and I want to share this with you because it directly ties into maintaining the front end of your Spyder, and it's something that I think you need to be aware of. If you have a 20 or 21, I've not seen a recall on this, but a lot of things that aren't recalls are things that people experience, things that you may experience. This could very well save your life. So Jim is the guy's name. I won't share his last name due to privacy, of course. So I'm just going to read the email, the parts that apply to you. So Jim goes out, buys a new CanAm Spyder, and he rode it home from the shop on day one. He got a suspension fault. Now, he rides every day, and sometimes he would get the error, and sometimes he wouldn't. The other day, he was riding from DeLand to Daytona, and it showed up again after a couple of miles. On the ride home, it didn't come on again. So he made an appointment to have it checked out. They found a bolt missing from the control link rod to the swing arm. That's correct. The bolt was missing. It was not there. The mechanic told him that this was at least the 5th time that he's seen this on new bikes this year. I have not heard of this happening up until the time that Jim sent me this email. But if you own a 2021 or a 2020, I want you to go out and closely inspect the suspension on your motorcycle. Be careful. Be careful. It doesn't have to be a recall for it to be a hazard. Remember, we are responsible for our own safety. I know that that's not a popular thing to say nowadays, that we assume the responsibility for the dangers that we put ourselves in. Because we do know that companies are there. They're there to make money. They're not there to please you. They're not there to please me. I got a video coming out on that real soon too. So make sure you inspect the suspension of your motorcycle, the condition of your tires, the inflation of your tires. Watch your road surfaces and look out for road debris. And remember this, that riding a Can-Am Spyder is way more forgiving than it is riding a two-wheeled motorcycle. I can tell you this beyond any doubt whatsoever. It is unbelievable how much safer when it comes to bad road conditions the Spyder is compared to two-wheelers. There really just isn't even a comparison. So for folks who are kind of on the fence thinking about safety or thinking about the platform of three-wheeler and how it applies to how much lane coverage and obstacle avoidance, which I thought about all of that, there are things you can avoid on a two-wheeler that you cannot avoid on a three-wheeler. But in the event that you hit it, you are way more safe on the three-wheeler. So I want you to make sure that you practice your due diligence. I want you to be safe. Whether you're riding 2, 3, or 4 wheels, make sure you take care of that machine so that it takes care of you. Now, I want you to do me a favor this week. Go out, buy the motorcycle of your dreams, eat right, take care of yourself. And remember, if you're not having fun, you are doing it wrong. Now you go seize the day, and I'll see you on the road real soon.